Gerard Evans is potentially the most dynamic quarterback at Virginia Tech since Michael Vick. Even on one foot, the Hokies are suddenly a pass-happy outfit vying for a Coastal Division championship, and don't look now, but most likely will win that division championship. They certainly are the front runners and have all the pieces in place to get the job done with key victories over North Carolina. And now Pitt, Mark Rogers TV with instant analysis of the Hokies 39-36 win over the Panthers. And what really stood out to me was, of course, Gerard Evans. So he left the football game sometime in the third quarter. He showed his leadership capabilities in coming back, and even on a banged-up right foot, willing his way down the field, throwing the football, relying on his passing skills, and relying on advantages that he had in the passing game on the outside with Bucky Hodges, Isaiah Ford in particular. Despite the presence of Deshaun Watson, Brad Kaya, and, of course, Lamar Jackson in the ACC, guess who's the number one rated passer in the conference? It is Gerard Evans. And I think a 24 for 40 performance for 406 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks in 40 attempts will not hurt that passer rating. Gerard Evans was remarkable in this game. Credit the work of Brendan Motley, the former starter, in coming back to lead a field goal drive when Evans had to leave the football game there in the third quarter. Watch this one from gun to gun. It was a really good one, even on DVR. 39-36 as the Panthers could have won it at Heinz Field, a place that Virginia Tech has had many disappointments in the past. So the work of Evans obviously stood out, and the pass-happy combination on the other end of Isaiah Ford, who's one of the very best in the business, made some remarkable catches with 10 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown that was scintillating along the pylon there. Bucky Hodges also had a huge night. As I scrambled to look for stats, I think he was 10 for 145 himself, and Cam Phillips also earning a number of big plays downfield. Also, for the Hokies in this one, they didn't really rely on the running game. Marshawn Williams was the main ball carrier in this game. Defensively, they looked a bit ragged. Nate Peterman had a big day for the Panthers, and James Conner couldn't be stopped for the most part in this one. But Virginia Tech has certainly shown us their front seven speed and what they can do. And even in this game, despite giving up the 36 points, made big plays in the opponent's backfield when they needed to. Joey Sly, a 6 for 6 day and tying an ACC record for field goal made and accuracy, of course, at 6 for 6. On the Pitt side of the football, it's James Conner, 19 carries for $141. He came into the game as the 6th leading rusher in the ACC. He did nothing to damage that. He's a workhorse, even despite all the physical struggles that he's had, and just getting back on the football field, as we've talked about a number of times here on Mark Rogers TV. Just a credit to him as a young man, as a warrior of sorts in a football sense, and just probably doesn't have the burst of speed that he once had. Still getting back to that form if he's ever able to retain or regain that 5th gear, but doesn't have the burst, but boy, he's good. Nate Peterman, efficient, not the most talented passer, certainly not runner in college football, but showed that he could pick up the offense and lead drives when he needed to in the passing game, despite the lack of great wide receivers on the outside. Dantes Ford's back at it for Pitt. He stepped onto the field for the Panthers for the first time since the Penn State game and contributed 3 catches for 59 yards. And he was expected to be the number 1 target for Nate Peterman coming into 2016. That should help. Okay, defensively, Pat Marduzzi will fix this squad, you would think. That's his specialty. But for right now, the secondary's in shambles and was really picked on by Ford, Hodges in particular, and Cam Phillips. That said, those guys are going to hurt a lot of defenses, especially Ford and Hodges will be playing in the NFL someday. No question about that. The secondary's been picked on exclusively by a number of teams, though. Penn State and Oklahoma State definitely had their way, and Mitch Trubisky and company at North Carolina. They refuse to get out of the man-to-man. So trailing at 39-29 with about 5 minutes to play, and Virginia Tech just carving up the secondary. You would think Narduzzi would have helped out his wide receivers, but Virginia Tech continued to move the ball down the field, throwing the ball many times just matchup situations on the outside, not necessarily scheming their way down the field with the best of pass patterns or exotic play calling in the passing game, but just tossing them up there and letting the more athletic, better ball skill players in Hodges, Phillips, and Ford do their work. Jordan Whitehead, probably the best defensive player on the field, possibly for both teams, certainly for his team at safety, an all-ACC performer, first team, could have made the play to give his team the ball back. So 3rd and 1 for the Hokies, leading by 3 with about 90 seconds left to play. Cam Phillips on the sweep was trapped in the backfield, and Jordan Whitehead had a clear shot at him, could have made the play to give his team a chance. Difficult in-space tackle, but you expect a player of Whitehead's magnitude to make that play. He allowed Phillips to juke him and dive for the first down, and that ended the game. That allowed the Hokies to run out the clock. Juan Price, one of the better pass rushers in all of college football, came in with 13 tackles for loss and 9 sacks. He did add to those totals, but he really wasn't a factor because Virginia Tech got it out of Gerard Evans' hands very quickly and got it to its playmakers on the outside. So Juan Price basically taken out of the game. That was a huge key to this victory for the Hokies. Virginia Tech now 6-2. Most importantly, they're in great shape in division play with just the one loss in conference. And that was to Syracuse, surprisingly, of course. But they've beaten the 2 main contenders that they need to face to date in North Carolina and Pitt. All right. Our thoughts on Pitt and Virginia Tech. Would love to hear from you. Hopefully you caught the game gun to gun. And we would love to hear you size it up right here on Mark Rogers TV.